All right, when we take a look at the average propensity to consume, again, remind yourself, the average propensity to consume is the fraction of the consumption, the fraction of the income consumed, right? So consumption expenditure divided by this disposable income, okay, to be precise. Now, so when we take a look at 8 developed economies, right? The United States has the average propensity to consume about 96%. So if this is 0.96, so that means the APS for United States, which is the fraction of the income saved, would be about 0.04. So the United States on average only saved for 4%, about 4% of its income. All right, marginal propensity to consume, this is a more important variable. The term marginal propensity to consume, let's take a look, the definition. Okay, so marginal propensity to consume means a fraction, just going to put it this way, or of proportion, put it this way better. This is a proportion of a change in income that was consumed, right? If you get an extra income, like $1 extra, how much would that extra dollar would be spent on consumption? So the term marginal propensity to consume then formula-wise will look like a change in the consumption over change in income, right? For example, if it is 0.8, this is over 1, right? So that means for every dollar increase in income, for every dollar increase in income, the 80 cents will be spent on consumption. Okay, 80 cents will be on consumption. Marginal propensity to save, very similar. This is the proportion of a change in income saved, right? How much would you saved when you have an extra dollar? How much would you saved, right? MPS, change in S over change in Y, right? So change in X over change in Y. And MPS plus MPC equals to 1 because for every extra dollar, you cannot add them up more than 1, right? This is for every extra dollar earned. So from this graph, I hope you can see it, that it's just the slope of this consumption curve. So slope of a consumption of a straight line, linear line, is rise over run. So we're going to take a look from this point, right? We want to estimate the slope of this line, rise and over run. So this is the run, this is the rise. Okay, so the rise over run. So the rise, which is delta C, the run, which is delta Y, in this case is disposable income, right? Delta C over delta Y. Okay, so for every $20 earned, $15 will be spent, right? This is 0.75. The MPC is 0.75. MPS is similar. So rise over run again. Here's the rise and here's the run. Okay, again, the run is when disposable income increases by $20. Okay, $5 will be saved, right? So that is a 1/4, which is 0.25. That's your MPS. All right, so you got the formula of all the MPS and MPC. Now let's take a look how to put this in the table. So I will do a couple of these. So this is how you read it. This is already level of disposable income, but now I'm just going to assume no taxes for simplicity, right? So disposable income, when it is 370, we need 375 to consume. So that means you're going to have to borrow, right? When you put y minus c, the s is the y minus c. In this case, which is already after tax, we assume tax is 0 for a moment. So disposable income minus consumption, then you would get the savings. So for the very first one is -5. That means borrowing. So when income is 390, you spend 390 on consumption, so saving is 0. And you can continue working on all of this, right? Just going to write everything down. It should be straightforward. Okay. So the greater the income, the greater the consumption. The greater the income, the greater the savings as well. So the average propensity to consume, you're just going to use column 2, right? C over Y. And average propensity to save, S over Y. So you should be able to calculate that pretty quickly, okay? So the first one, C is 375 and Y is 370. So you can just use 375 divided by 370, and that would be 1.01, okay? That's again 1, and you can do the continuing and keep doing this. All right. Average propensity to save, it should add to average propensity to consume should be 1. So this is negative 0.01, right? And this is 0. And here would be 0.013 and things like this, okay? 0.013 and so on. Okay, now marginal propensity to consume, you need 2 data points to find the MPC. For example, we are going to use this 2 data point, right? By definition, it is delta C over delta Y. So delta C from here to here, because of Y increases by 20, right? Y increases by 20, consumption increases by 15. You see, 15 over 20, 0.75. Right? And it's constant. We only deal with a linear here. It doesn't have to be, but for our level, this is going to be a constant number. Right? For every dollar of income increase, 75 cents would be spent on consumption. Okay, which means I don't need to calculate the MPS because they must add up to 1. Okay, and then so on. Same thing. Okay, now, all right. I hope you can find this one. If not, should come back here and take a look at this. We will do a little bit more of this during our session. Up to this point, you should be able to see that the greater the disposable income, the greater the consumption, right? Okay, so there are some other determinants that could change the consumption as well. And this is very similar to what we did in chapter 13, right? When there's an increase in the wealth, right? There's a positive relationship, more wealth, more consumption. If you could borrow more, then you consume more as well. Now, there's some expectation that could happen. Expectation could be, I'm trying to think, changes in future prices, maybe. Okay, let's think through this for a little bit. If you expect that the future prices or maybe wealth, the first one first, okay. If you expect the future prices will increase, then you want to consume more now, If future prices, if you expect that to increase, what you're going to see is consuming now before the price too high. All right. If you expect that your wealth is going to be higher, you spend now as well. Okay, so you just have to reason through it. So real interest rate, remember, the real interest rate means the interest rate after corrected for inflation. So the real interest rate, if there is a lower interest rate, right, lower interest rate, so it's more incentive for people to borrow and consume. Lower the interest rate, borrow more, consume more. Okay, so keep in mind, low interest rate will increase the consumption. And the very last one, taxation. That's very straightforward, right? The higher the tax, the lower the consumption. Okay, if tax is higher, of course, lower disposable income, it will lower the consumption as well. Okay, now because the GDP and the disposable income, of course, they move together. We will focus on the real GDP instead of disposable income. So I'm comfortable to use them interchangeably. But if I didn't bring any taxes in, so basically consumption is a function of just Y. That's fine too. Okay. Here we go. All right, so these are the equation that we just looked at. Now, on the next page, you will see after we're switching from the disposable income to real GDP. Now, consumption is a function of the real GDP. And again, I need to make sure that you see that disposable income changes when either real GDP changes or net taxes change. So if tax rate don't change, then the real GDP is the only influence on disposable income. And we don't change tax rate all the time. So it's kind of comfortable now to assume this disposable income just the GDP or real GDP. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop right there and continue on the next topic, which is, this is a graph that we looked at earlier. Oh, now this is a shift in, we'll come back to do the shift in consumption and saving in the next video, please.